When you watch the mainstream media news, do you feel a little twitch? Is there a tingle in your left hand? Is your jaw locked? We have the solution. Welcome to Reasonable Arguments, News and Nonsense, the podcast where thoughtful debate meets unfiltered fun. Coming to you from Sarasota, Florida, where your host, Jamie Miller, a political expert with a high-level take on today's events, and Jennifer Bash, someone who can't stand politics but loves helping you make sense of the chaos. Together, we mix informed conservative commentary, playful banter, and just the right amount of nonsense to keep it entertaining. From domestic and international news to conspiracies both proven and debunked, we tackle it all with humor and honesty. We believe keep your arguments reasonable and your nonsense fun. This is Reasonable Arguments, News and Nonsense. And now your hosts, husband and wife duo, Jamie and Jennifer.
Hello.
I love that intro every time.
I know. It does get you fired up, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
All right. So today we are going to talk about USAID. We're going to talk about the federal buyout, and we're going to talk about the infamous CBS interview, but we have so much more. But everybody listening is in luck because it's not going to just be me and Jamie talking today. We have our very first guest on the show. So let's welcome Brendan Farrington to the show.
Yeah.
Hi,
Hey.
Brendan.
Where's the clapping?
Oh, yes. Hold,
Supposed to clap for myself?
hold, please. No, we have that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Hey, Brendan, thank you so much for joining us. I
Problem.
love it. We've had I don't know how long we've known each other. I'm going to say 20 years, but
Probably about 20 years, yeah.
yeah, lots of, a political guy and a former political reporter for the Associated Press, a lot of trust. You have probably the greatest trust, I thought, of any reporter in Tallahassee, just for the way you handled yourself, the way you would give people leeway to speak, and the way that you would, let people speak, but, kind of get off the record and then kind of get them back on the record to try to get your job done for what you needed to do, So kudos to a great career, and tell us a little bit. You recently left the Associated Press. Tell us what you're up to now.
Yeah, I left the Associated Press. They offered a buyout, and at my age and my length of time with the company, I couldn't say no because it was a pretty good buyout. And so now I'm talking with a lot of folks. My first official gig is helping out the Florida Policy Project, which is former Senator Jeff Brandes' think tank. And so I'm working on a piece on taking a look at the Department of Corrections right now. Florida Policy Project takes a look at affordable housing, transportation, insurance, and corrections in Florida, trying to reasonably solve problems, come up with suggestions and solutions to make this a better state. And I respect Jeff. I always appreciated the conversations we had when I was a reporter and he was a senator, and I think he's doing great work. I'm really happy to be with him.
Excellent. Well, thank you for being here. We've got a bunch of stories we're going to go through, so I think we just kind of bandy them around like a tennis match. So we'll continue to do that. So this story is moving pretty fast. USAID and Doji, I know that they're trying to block Elon Musk from the Treasury Department from going in and looking at that. And there was a small injunction on that, I think, that just came down right before we came on. We don't need to get into that. But I recently wrote a Substack about just the fraud over at USAID, and which is supposed to be an international kind of humanitarian and taking good government across the world. And so what are your thoughts on all this corruption we're seeing and specifically on the liberal liberalism that was portrayed as American values in these other countries?
Well, I think there's corruption all over government. Of course, you could take a program like USAID and find areas where money is not being spent the way most taxpayers think it should be. But do you throw everything out just to, make points about somebody?
Yes.
Yeah.
I liken it to spring pruning, Brendan. I think that sometimes you have to prune all the way down to the root to get new growth. I don't know that USAID is going to go away, but I think to get all the waste away, sometimes you have to prune to the root.
I have a question. So was USAID something that anybody has ever really thought about before, or is it just now that someone's looking into it, now we see that it was an issue?
Well, have you ever heard of it before, Jennifer?
No, never heard of it before, and never knew that we were sending condoms to Turkey or wherever they're going. Like, is that something that was well known, or is this just coming about where it's in depth of what we're seeing?
Well, it's long been known that we've provided all different kinds of foreign aid to different countries. Hell, since I was in high school, I wondered, is that the best use of our money? And then sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes we are putting money into countries that we want to build a relationship with. We're doing humanitarian stuff, but like anything, you're going to be able to find ridiculous things in how any government program is spending its money.
I call a good bit of USAID the political consultant foreign vacation agency, right? Because we all know political consultants. I've never worked for USAID, but I certainly know, I think Democrats know that there's plenty of consultants who land a 2 or 3 year gig to go to one of these foreign countries and, take a lot of pictures with school children or, quote, take democracy to these other countries. And I'm sure everybody who participated in that did a good job and did what they were asked to do. But like you, I don't know that was the best use of our money. And at some point when you're 36 trillion dollars in debt, depending on the day, at some point we have to stop spending a $2 trillion deficit each year. So, I think does USAID come back in some shape, form, or fashion? A different question for you, Brendan. Now there's this huge constitutional question of whether the president can even do this if Congress, quote, pass the spending bills. And I would suggest that, Congress hasn't passed a full budget since 1997, all 12 appropriation acts that constitute our budget since 1997. We haven't have a balanced budget since 2001. And we've basically lived through our federal government since 1997 through continuing resolution. And so I think it does give the president a good leeway to have discretion on how he spends or if the money is spent at all.
So what part of that was the question?
Do you think there's a constitutional issue with the president doing these? Is Doge a constitutional issue?
I think it could be, certainly. I mean, when you look at Elon Musk coming in and he wasn't elected, Doge is it even an official government agency at this point? It hasn't gotten congressional approval.
But there are agencies that I think that they're saying that he's, quote, working under that are watchdog, intra-government watchdog groups that are supposed to root out government waste, that he's supposedly working under that umbrella that is a legitimate department of government.
I have a feeling over the next year we're going to see a lot of constitutional issues argued. I mean, that's part of what Donald Trump's doing right now. He's disrupting the federal government, and he's starting out by doing what he wants, and we'll find out what is allowed and what isn't.
Yeah. No, I think there will be. I think a lot of these may have to go to the Supreme Court. I'm hopeful that
We'll probably do pretty good there. So.
I'm hopeful that one of the outcomes is that Congress passes a budget instead of these continuing resolutions. I hope it forces Congress to pass a budget. So I'm going to say that it is constitutional, and the president does have the leeway because the Congress has not passed a budget. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm going to argue.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm not going to argue that it's not constitutional. I mean, I do carry a copy of the Constitution with me, and I listen to the arguments back and forth. But until I actually sit down and read the Constitution and think about it, I'm not going to pretend to be some kind of expert. Even when I read it, I'm not going to pretend to be some kind of expert.
Yeah,
so
I don't understand why it would be constitutional. I mean, if we have a
constitutional or unconstitutional.
Every business has a budget, right? I mean, and that's basically what it is. So if someone is overspending and it's found, then fix it.
So the Constitution says Congress has the ability to spend. The White House has the ability to veto that spending. Not, it's not the other way around. So people would argue constitutionally that because Congress passed continuing resolutions for USAID, regardless of whether it's fraudulent or not, regardless of whether it's DEI, regardless of what it is, that the president does not have the ability not to spend the money. Everything that would be constitutionally required to spend the money.
Everything that goes through USAID has to be approved by Congress.
Yeah, so they've done that through continuing resolution, which is in general not necessarily as in depth as the budget process.
Okay.
So it's kind of a fast track of spending money, so people don't see what they're spending money on, and both sides have done it. I'm not saying Democrats are wrong and Republicans are right. I'm just saying this is how it's been done since 1997. That we've gone from hopscotch to hopscotch, and in 1997, I'm not sure. I think we were about $1 trillion in debt, maybe even less, and now we're $34 trillion in debt. And so. I wrote in the blog, USAID, since its inception in 1961, and it's at a 4,700%, has grown 4,700%. And the federal government has grown 6,600% since 1961. So, some may argue that, USAID isn't even growing as fast as the federal government, but we all know that the government's growing faster than we're able to fund it. So it's growing too fast. So I don't want to spend any more time unless you have a question, Jennifer. So I know you might have some input on this, Jennifer. So CBS releases the full 60-minute interview of Kamala Harris. And, we going into the election, we were all kind of like, why won't they even give the unredacted, play-by-play or word-by-word? They just had a J.D. Vance interview, and they immediately released the transcript. And they still haven't released the transcript. The Federal Communications Commission released the 60-minute full-length video unedited. And, of course, the linchpin here is Donald Trump is suing CBS for $10 billion for election interference. Do you think it was election interference or the right of CBS to edit and withhold any of that information that they wanted in the interview?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, they had to do some kind of editing to even get any kind of a interview from her that would even make sense at all, right? I mean, everything was just mumbo jumbo, and it was so hard to listen to that. Was it even election interference? I mean, I get not releasing it, but in the same sense, she didn't help herself anyway.
I don't think anybody cares about, no editing. We all realize that you can't take a 60-minute interview and just run it carte blanche, right? I think the issue was...
No. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I think one of the issues is they have to be consistent. I'll defend CBS's right to not release that because, they're a private company. We have First Amendment rights. There is editing, but I know.
But aren't they using our airwaves? Like there are airwaves that they broadcast across.
Yeah, but you could shut up. You don't have to turn them on.
Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate with it because
I
there's
get
a
that.
part. The reason why they're allowed to use our airways from the very beginning and the inception of FCC was that you were going to educate the public with these airwaves, and a debate falls under, and an interview of a presidential candidate falls under that education of the public. So now denying the public access to the full interview or the transcript, you could say they violated their agreement with the FCC.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, again, getting back to what I was starting to say, that they have to be consistent. If they're going to treat Vance one way, they have to treat Harris the same way. But it is totally their right to edit it down. And again, I mean, if you asked me to release a transcript of every conversation we've had because I quoted you once, I mean, I've talked to you on the phone for a half hour, 45 minutes.
That book would sell very well, Brendan.
I boil it down to one sentence. Who's going to be clamoring to say, I want to see everything that Jamie said.
Right.
Right. No, it's again, private company, First Amendment rights. Their mistake was not being consistent, not treating both, politicians.
So the lawsuit has teeth or not for the inconsistency?
I don't think so.
I doubt it does either. But that just Jennifer, lawsuit or no lawsuit?
I think he's doing what needs to be done, just making it transparent and showing that there was that happening behind the scenes. And I think that's all he wants. I don't even think he cares about the money.
I tend to agree, although I think he always cares somewhat about the money, because that's how he keeps score. Yeah. Jennifer, you had a couple topics you wanted to bring before. We're not ending. We're not going to your news stories.
No, not yet.
This is beef that she brought to the table today, ladies and gentlemen.
So one of the things that I do that's different from Jamie reads all high level news stories and stuff like that. And I'm in social media, digging through the trenches, just seeing what people are saying on both sides. And one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, I saw on Instagram, and it was a post that said, "Immigrants make our community stronger. We won't let their rights be trampled." And it kind of took me by surprise a little bit, just because I think a lot of people don't understand how immigrants coming into this country illegally and everything like that affects them. And I just wanted your take, everybody's take on how that could be a problem.
Brendan.
What the problem being that they have rights?
I argue that they don't have constitutional rights. I've argued that many times on our podcast.
I would tend to argue that if you're not a U.S. citizen, you don't fall under the protections of the Constitution necessarily. But there's also doing the right thing.
I agree that we don't expect our frontline police officers to make a determination in the field of you're a citizen or a non-citizen, and so you have the right to free speech or not. So the police officer in the field, let's say a police officer, should treat everybody equally, right? Like they are a citizen.
I think so, yeah. Sure.
But I've also said that people who are here, who are immigrants, whether they're legal or illegal, are our guests, and they should act as guests, not citizens. We don't go to other countries and try to petition their government while we're on vacation, or expats don't go there and try to change the government system. And so I do think there's a line of we don't allow illegal immigrants to own guns. They don't have the right to petition our government.
Well, let me say that this came from ACLU Indiana, is who did this specific post.
I agree. And Brendan, I think you quoted me one time years ago when this issue was coming around with the Tea Party, and we were people are like, "Oh, send them home, right? Send the illegal immigrants home." And I'm like, what happens when their home's around the corner from me? What's the practical application? And I've argued that sending 20 million people home, we run into a practical application problem. I do believe that immigrants I think the first part of that is probably true. We're a country of immigrants. We are a stronger country because of immigrants, but that doesn't mean, when somebody's alluding that they're talking about illegal immigrants because of the timing of the post, and then suggesting that they have rights. That's where it gets off kilter.
Well, I guess going back to more something you were saying before you wrapped up, that we can't paint everyone with the same brush. I mean, yeah, we have 20 million immigrants here, and the attitude, let's round them all up and throw them out, just isn't practical. It isn't practical for a number of reasons. I mean, the cost, our own needs here in the United States. I mean, whether it's farming or construction. I mean, if people are following the law, they should be low on the priority list. If people are contributing to society, they should be low on the list of people that were booted out of the country. But yeah, I mean, if you commit a felony, I think you should still have due process under law, but it doesn't mean that we're going to treat that person as if they were a United States citizen. By that, I mean, yes, you got to treat people with respect and humanity, but they violated the law coming here. They're violating the law while they're here. That's a little bit different than if you or I went out and stole a car, so, but
if you're an American citizen, Brendan says you can steal a car.
No, but I mean, the vast majority of illegal immigrants are not breaking the law.
So we had this conversation on one of our other podcasts where Jamie said that he doesn't feel that kids that are on college campuses who are here on visas have the right to protest. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they have the right to protest. Sure.
Absolutely not. Because they don't have constitutional rights, and so they're trying to influence our government. They're trying to influence our institutions, and they're trying to influence their fellow citizens, their fellow students. And no other country in the world allows foreigners to come into their country and do that. And I just think it's ridiculous to say that if you're here on a visa from wherever and you come in and you are stopping the commerce of college, which is what happened last spring, they stopped. If you want to look at college as a business, or, they stopped that from happening. They harassed people. They were racist. They were anti-Semitic. They were harassing Jewish students to the point that Jewish students didn't go to class. I mean, of course they don't have that right. Of course they don't. There's no question in my mind that they don't.
My opinion is that a protest is nothing more than an opinion. These people are just out there just sharing their opinion
exactly.
with the
but
people around them. But
they don't have First Amendment rights as non-citizens.
But if they're sharing their opinions, if you don't like their opinions, don't listen to them.
No, it's different than sharing your opinion when you group together as a protest to terrorize other students.
Intimidating and terrorizing people, that's different, But so
sharing your opinion is writing a paper in a class and sharing it.
American-born college students. Do we give them a pass because, they were born here, and then just target other people that there are?
Well, of course they shouldn't terrorize, but if you're a U.S. citizen, you have greater rights within the country. No, not to terrorize, but to protest. You have the right to petition your government. You have a right to protest your government. A foreigner on our soil does not have the right to protest our government.
What if you're protesting against the government?
As a U.S. citizen, we're allowed to do that.
Protesting for the government. Should they go out and are you saying that foreigners shouldn't be able to say, yeah, let's back the USA on this? They shouldn't have that right?
They could do that because that's not a protest. That's an agreement.
It's an opinion. You can be protesting just because you're agreeing with the United States.
You don't have First Amendment rights as a non-citizen. Mm-hmm. Period. The end.
So just tell them to shut the fuck up.
Well, keep it in the classroom.
Keep it in the classroom.
Oh my God.
Discussion should be in the classroom.
I certainly don't want our country to turn into the speech police. That you're here on a visa. So what's that mean? That
but you know what was different. You know what was different.
Protests asking everyone for their citizenship.
But what was different on these college campuses last spring? It went past. It was organized protests across the country to influence our government. And that's different than 8 or
How are you
8 students.
influencing the government? I mean, you're
It was
only
on
going to
every nightly
influence.
news. It was
But
on every
that's
nightly
the
news.
media issue. That's their issue. That's not the protesters' issue. That's your
They're doing
media.
it to be on the news, though. So
But the media could shut it down.
the Constitution doesn't
That's
allow
the
it.
issue.
The
Your
Constitution does
government-
not allow it.
Your government is letting the media companies do that. Put rules in place that
No more guests that agree with Jennifer.
Wow. Now I know I am the first guest.
I have a soundbite for that too, Brendan. Listen.
Well, you're right. You win.
See, so I have that tucked away.
All right. What's your next story, Jennifer?
So the other one that I had that came up was it is 2020 attacks on BLM, 2022 attacks on CRT, 2024 attacks on woke, and 2025 attacks on DEI. Black. They mean black. And this was posted by a black woman. And I didn't quite understand that one.
Brendan.
Well, the way I would interpret that is that there's a feeling that each year some people in government are coming after African Americans and other minorities.
What is CRT?
Critical race theory. Critical, and basically, in a nutshell, it's a little bit more complicated than this, but it's studying whether there is institutional racism in the United States.
It's teaching that there was institutional racism in our public schools.
Okay.
Well, public schools, government, elsewhere. And,
Right.
If you're buying a home, you've heard about redlining neighborhoods. I mean, there are a lot of problems that we've had in our country trying to achieve equality. And I think a lot of these programs are designed for that. Some of them are misunderstood. I just get the feeling, and I'm saying this as an old white man who's been told in the past, you could apply for the job, but don't bother because it's going to be a diversity hire. But, what would the Atlanta Police Department look like if it was all white men? I think there's value in diversity. I think there's a lot of paranoia that we're trying to subvert the rights of others in order to promote.
Yeah, one of my
people who have traditionally been misrepresented.
One of my first letters to the editor, I think I was still in high school when I wrote it, had to do with college admissions and affirmative action. And as long as our government is asking us our race, the government's going to make racist decisions. And if the government's making racist decisions, then there's going to be a level of racism in the United States. And so the only way to stop it is to have the government stop asking and making decisions based on race. The problem with DEI, I think all of these things are tap dancing around, hey, they could be a good thing, right? They're not on their face value. They're not horrible things, but they're slippery slopes that end up in horrible places. And
well, Brendan, I think it's also a slippery slope to just cut everything, stop everything. I mean, there needs to be a discussion. People need to be aware of our history. People need to be aware of current situations of discrimination, whether it's blacks, whether it's women who aren't making as much as men.
Well, a perfect example is Jennifer and I were not married when we bought this house and got a mortgage together. 30 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, that maybe wouldn't be allowed. 40 years ago, it probably certainly wasn't allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were two people, you had to be married. And so, people and society grows, if you want to call it growth, into a more practical application. Does it move too slow? I've said in the past, the problem with these programs is that they get to a point when the pendulum swings too far left, and you're saying it needs not swing too far right. And I agree with that. But, the problem was it swung too far left, where pick a percentage of what DEI, what population it's protecting, 20%, 40%, whatever it is. The problem is that you now have a situation where, if you take a big company and they have these DEI programs, DEI now applies to 100% of job hires and 100% of promotions. And so if you're not in that 20 or 40% collected class or protected class, you don't have a chance to get a job or a promotion, because it is always going to go to the DEI hire, because it changes the HR system within those companies where they won't take a risk on not hiring or promoting the person who is DEI because they don't want to face the scrutiny within the company. And that's the practical application on the negative side of DEI. And I think that's why a lot of people looked at someone like Kamala Harris, who was the highest ranking DEI hire of all time, when Joe Biden said, I have 4 people I'm picking from to be vice president, and all 4 are African-American women. And, so when she started saying, I'm qualified because I'm vice president, I think there's a good group of people who said, we aren't sure you were even qualified to be vice president. You were a DEI hire.
Well, let's take a look at Florida. I believe Governor Christ, as a Republican, made it a point that he was going to nominate a Black Supreme Court justice, state Supreme Court justice. And is that a DEI hire? Just because they're looking. Well, I mean, Biden did the same thing.
If you're taking a stack of applicants and you separate them by race, it is wrong. Period. The end. Black, white, whatever. If you're saying the only pile I'm going to look at are these women, or these African-American women, or these gay people, these gay women, whatever you want to say, if you're taking that group of applicants and you're discarding all the other applicants simply because they don't meet a racial or gender qualification, then it's wrong. It's wrong if it's men. It's wrong if it's white. It's certainly wrong any other way as well.
Well, let me ask this. If you are running a business or a state agency or a department, and you notice that your employees don't reflect the people that you serve, so you make a conscious effort to diversify your employees, is that bad?
I don't think it's bad at all. And when I was director of field operations for the party, I had the most diversified staff, I think, in Republican Party history. I had 13 staff members, and it wasn't because I sought to get diversity. It's just simply because I didn't exclude a single person because of their diversity. And I hired the best people that I could. And I would say that the proof was in those 537 votes in 2000 that we were able to win by George W. Bush, because we had a diverse staff that was going out and speaking out in the communities, doing field work on behalf of George W. Bush.
Well, I think, like many things we argue, we fall into extremes, extreme right, extreme left, when we could find something in the middle. Sure. Should you just say, I'm only going to interview Black women for this job, or Black men, or Hispanic, or I'm only interviewing women? No. But should you hire people that aren't qualified because of their race? No. But there's a balance. You could seek out qualified people to diversify your company, your agency, your political campaign, whatever, because I think it does make us all better when we listen to different opinions, different people from different backgrounds. But no one, you're not going to want to hire a brain surgeon. You don't go to a hospital and say, I want to make sure my brain surgeon is Black, but you don't do the same thing as I want to make sure my brain surgeon is white.
Right. 100%.
So yeah, of course you want qualified people, and all things being equal, if you decide you want to diversify your company, your agency, great.
I think those frontline employees, and you can certainly, in my situation, it wasn't a big multi-billion-dollar corporation. I think the problem becomes when you have, these big bureaucracies, whether they're government or huge Fortune 500 companies that have these. I think it permeates the hiring and promoting process to where it does exclude populations. And I do think that the pendulum goes back and forth. Jennifer, you've been quiet. Why don't you want to pipe in?
No, I've been on the hiring side for a long time, and it wasn't necessarily described as being diverse, but I got in trouble many times for not hiring just to have butts in the seats and stuff like that. So I know companies, are held to a certain standard on what they have to report and things like that. So I think we can see it all different ways.
I think Sure. And the other thing about diversity, it's not just about who you're hiring, and you're hiring because of race or gender or ethnicity. But some of these programs are also teaching people how to treat other people with respect, that you're dealing with, all right, this isn't appropriate to say to your colleague because they're Jewish or they're Black or they're Hispanic. I don't think there's anything wrong with being sensitive to people and who they are, and trying to treat each other with decency.
Follow the golden rule, right?
Yeah, follow the golden rule. Heck, I was at a hotel in Atlanta last year, and there was an African American woman at the check-in desk, and someone came in and said, "I want someone else to check me in." That's horrible. That's horrible. So if you have an employee with an attitude like that, what's wrong with giving them a little bit of a training and saying, "Hey, you can't treat people that way."
Yeah.
I agree. Jennifer, did you have another one before we go on to Brendan? You sent a topic about Senator Debbie Mayfield being denied ballot access in the state Senate special election. You want to kind of give some background on that? And she faced term limits in 2024.
She faced term limits. Randy Fine won her seat. Randy Fine is not going to be going to Congress, so we need to fill that seat. If she takes that, is that a sufficient break from the 8 years, and then you gotta step down? I mean, obviously she'd be able to run in the next cycle because you can't serve for more than 8 consecutive years. But because that term has started, is that consecutive? And is she correct in saying that this is just DeSantis punishing her?
Well, she won a state house seat though, too, right? Didn't she go back to the state house, won a state house seat? So she's a sitting member of the state house right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so my question to you would be,
the question is can she serve in the Senate? Can she be on the ballot?
So is that break between serving in senator, is that a day, a month? Would Ron DeSantis's special session come back to bite him, because the special session is seen as a break in her service from the state Senate, because she was not seated in the state Senate. Randy Fine served in that special Senate as a state senator. So is that enough of a break?
Well, that's the question. And let's put it this way. If it were someone that had been waving the flag for DeSantis in the same situation, would we have gotten that ruling from the Secretary of State's office?
And I think, when I first saw this article from you, I thought, much like conventional wisdom, that you needed to have a full term between. So she would not be eligible for the state Senate for 4 years unless another seat opened up. Then she would be qualified to run that if she sat out 2 years, probably. But you're still kind of mincing words. But this is in the state constitution, right? Term limits are in the state constitution, and under, what do we call in section 4? I think it's Article 7, but I didn't write down the article. There's under paragraph C, it lists the people who have term limits applied to them, right? And it says, if by the end of the current term of office, the person will have served, if not for resignation, in that office for 8 consecutive years, they're disqualified. So the fact that she sat out of the election in 2024 for state Senate, I think constitutes enough time. I think certainly now that there's been a special session and there's been another senator who served in that special session, that she is qualified to serve and run for the state Senate. And I think she does win the petition that was just accepted by the Florida State Supreme Court right before we came on the air.
Well, I think that's one of those cases where you could make valid arguments on both sides. Reasonable arguments, you might say.
Well, that'll be one of our shorts, just reasonable arguments, you might say.
I think, however it plays out, I can accept. But my question is whether the governor was playing politics with it, whether it was retribution by the governor, or whether this was the Secretary of State's office saying, no, this is the way we interpret it, and it has nothing to do with her loyalty or what she said about Governor DeSantis. If it's the case that, they were told to say, no, she's not qualified by the governor's office, then I think there might be a problem there.
What do you think, Jennifer? So our state
I
has
have nothing.
Do you
Nothing?
now hold on? Do you agree with term limits, number one, or do you care?
I think there has to be term limits. I mean, everybody gets stale. You have to have some kind of,
So if there's term limits, just forget about the law and everything we're talking about. If there's term limits, how long do you think someone should not be in the office before they can run again?
For a different position?
No, for the same one.
The same position.
I don't know.
Don't care.
So you have term limits, and then you term out, and then you run again.
So the thing is that somebody else ran and won the seat after she had term limits.
Mm-hmm.
They've served in the special session. They're going to start the regular session in March, and then that person is going to vacate the position and go to Congress, our dear friend Randy Fine. And so the question is that person who served in October and was ineligible to run in November of 2024, can that person be allowed to fill the vacancy by Randy Fine? You think they should have to wait at least 4 years?
What? Her taking back the same position she had?
Say that again?
Her
Jennifer?
taking back the same position that she had?
Yes.
No, I don't think you should. I think you serve your term limits and you're done.
And you never get to serve again.
Would she ever be
not
able
in the same position?
Oh, you don't think it? So Florida law does allow you to serve in the same position
you can run again.
as long as you sit out a certain amount of time.
Right. If Jeb Bush wanted to run again, he could run again.
Right.
I think it would depend on the position. I mean, I don't know, because then you're not. I mean, there goes your diversity, right? Because you have the same people in office doing the same thing that they've always done.
I think that the way that this is playing out with Mayfield right now, and I'm not suggesting that there's anything devious going on, but if she wins this, you could see in the future someone saying, okay, let's say Ron DeSantis, he's filled his 2 terms behind the scenes. He gets someone to run, he wins, and then they resign 3 months later. So DeSantis can run again. Would that be fair?
No.
So let me ask you this.
I don't think it is.
So DeSantis is term limit as governor.
Yep.
Is he eligible to run as lieutenant governor? Jennifer.
Is lieutenant governor higher or lower than that position?
Lower.
Why would you want to? I don't understand why these people would even want to go back to where they were. I mean,
could he? Yeah, I would say he could, but would he?
Yeah.
Why would he want to? Well, under your scenario, Brendan, he would run as lieutenant governor, then the other person would resign and he would succeed up to governor.
Right.
And so what we're saying here is if Debbie Mayfield is not qualified to do that, Ron DeSantis would not be able to run for lieutenant governor and then become governor until it was after 4 years.
Right.
So we would have a constitutional crisis. So if Ron DeSantis is eligible to run for lieutenant governor, then Debbie Mayfield is eligible to run for state senator.
I'd agree with that.
So
it sounds a little far-fetched.
It's 100% far-fetched, but I'm just trying to get it surrounded.
You do want to avoid shenanigans when it comes to your elected officials.
Right.
And I mean, this is Florida. Florida's a crazy state. It's so if someone got a crazy idea in their head, they're like, hey, I know how we can keep this DeSantis chain running. That we're gonna get Byron Donalds to run for governor and have him be the lieutenant governor, and then Donald's going to get appointed by Trump to a federal agency, and all of a sudden DeSantis is governor again. I mean, right. I think most people would kind of think that would be bullshit.
Right. So if that's bullshit, then so would Debbie being state senator. But I don't think that Ron DeSantis running for lieutenant governor is against the Constitution.
Right.
So the practical application is bullshit. I
don't see the Mayfield situation where she and Senator Fine were in cahoots to say,
no way, right?
I think my far-fetched scenario, I would like to prevent people from manipulating the game to their benefit. You know,
Right.
I mean, we have term limits for a reason.
Yeah, I'm not accusing Randy or Debbie of doing that. I don't think anybody is, but I haven't even heard that part speculated by their enemies because I think it's just the circumstances of the thing. Is she qualified or isn't she? But the next thing, before we get to Jennifer's story, Super Bowl predictions. Eagles.
Are we talking about the federal buyout? Did we talk about that? That was on the list too.
Oh, federal buyout, yeah.
Where's the federal buyout? Go for it, Jennifer.
Wasn't mine.
That was mine.
Sorry, I skipped it.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry.
Jamie gets on a roll.
No, this is.
Thank you, Jennifer.
To me, because I just took a buyout, right? So I'm seeing what's going on with the federal government, and there is completely apples and oranges what I went through and what is happening now in the federal government. Buyouts, I don't have a problem with buyouts if they want to do it, but if I were a federal employee, yeah, I'd be concerned about leaving my job and then finding out that the agreement that you signed wasn't legal, wasn't valid. In my case, the buyout agreement was negotiated with our union. It was put to a vote by our union. Everyone was in agreement, and I accepted. And I think if people in the federal government are offered a buyout and want to take it, then by all means, take it. And I don't see that as a sign of their loyalty to the government or not. Everyone's situation is different. They have different circumstances. If you've been a federal employee for 15 years and you're getting burnt out, and they offer you 7 months pay, and you've already been thinking about leaving, great. And, more power to them. But I would, the way it's being rolled out, I would be to take it if I were.
You'd be concerned. You'd be concerned, and you would want some guarantees that your retirement is intact if in fact the court overrules the buyout. And let's say maybe you at that point have moved on to a bigger and better job and you don't want to return to your government job. You don't want to lose your federal benefits because you took the buyout.
Exactly.
That's fair. Jennifer, your thoughts?
I agree. Buyouts are great. I mean, especially if you're ready. Take it and go. Mm-hmm. Same with term limits. You're done. Get out. Go do something else.
All right. Brendan, anything else on buyouts?
No, that's it.
And
I was careful. I think I heard my wife just come in, so she doesn't know we're doing this. Well, she knows we're doing this, but she may not know we're doing it now. So
okay.
She comes in and says, "Hey, hon, just
I'll assume she's talking to you and not me.
Yeah. Although she loves you too, Jamie.
I love her as well. To make sure we tell Amy hello. Super Bowl predictions. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Who's the winner and what's the score, Jennifer?
Oh, God, I don't care.
I don't care.
Nope, I just don't want anybody to blow up. Like, I want it to be a non-conspiracy theory day, period.
Donald Trump is in attendance.
Yeah.
Brendan, what's your prediction?
I don't know what my prediction is. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I want Philadelphia to win just because, I'm tired of seeing the Kansas City winning year after year after year. I mean, I didn't get tired of it when I was, when the Patriots were doing it, but come on, let's
the good news is they did it the same way the Chiefs are doing it with the refs' help. So, you should be for the Chiefs because really it's the black and white zebras who have kept you in the game for so long. But I've got two predictions. The Eagles over the Chiefs, 24-17. Defenses are stronger, but we will see the longest field goal in Super Bowl history.
What?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Right? That's not a bad prediction.
They're just getting longer and longer and longer. And
yeah, I think so. If it's the longest field goal in Super Bowl history, I don't know what the longest is. Jennifer,
have you looked up the Hard Rock odds on that?
No, I haven't. I have not. So, all right. You don't agree with me, Jennifer. Longest Super Bowl in the Superdome.
I don't care, Jamie. I don't care. The Steelers aren't in it. I'm done.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Of course, that's next year, Jennifer.
Yes, next year.
Okay, well, speaking of the Super Bowl, how many years is it going to take for the Jaguars to get there?
They will move cities
Do
first.
they even still exist?
They still exist.
They will be the Nashville Jaguars.
We're building a new stadium. I don't know why. Jacksonville is. I know I'm getting on a tangent here, but I love Jacksonville. I love the city. but it's the city that keeps trying too hard and not getting what it wants. The landing was a great idea. Now it's just a lump of grass. But I do love Jax. I don't know why they needed that much.
Part of it, it's almost got too many identities. It's got the beach, it's got the river, it's got the downtown, it's got the military, it's got the rural areas. It's the largest city by acreage in the United States.
Yep. Yeah, because they consolidated all the unincorporated areas into the.
Jennifer, you don't have to Google that. We have confirmation.
Okay, good.
So now we're on to your stories, Jennifer. Neither me nor Brendan know them. So, Brendan, when we have the intro and it is me going, that is the story of the Canadian who got thrown on the ground and his penis
frozen.
So that was my real time reaction to Jennifer's story, and she loves it so much she included it on the intro. I think I look like an idiot, but I do think it's funny, so it stays.
All right.
So today's story is the human penis has grown at an alarming rate in just 30 years. Did you know that?
Not mine.
About 30 years for mine to grow. I'm 58. Just went through prostate.
Man, I wish that was
30 years. Yeah.
This is according to a 2023 Stanford University study that found the average erect penis jumped 25% in length between 1992 and 2021. From 4.8 to 6 inches. I'm thinking that the rollers are just looking different now, but 4.8 to 6 inches, 4.8 inches to 6 inches.
Mm-hmm.
This momentum could see the average length push past 8.5 inches by the year 2100. So researchers said that it's environmental factors, not evolution, and they catalyze rapid growth such as pollution or certain lifestyle habits. So if we're seeing this fast of a change, it means that something powerful is happening in our bodies. This is from Michael Eisenberg, who is a lead author of the study from Stanford. And they are now scientists are looking at nanotechnology to create built-in contraceptive systems that could turn off and on at will, which I think is amazing. And that would have been fantastic when I was younger. Don't listen to this, mom or dad. And then Rich Lee, who is the CEO of a company called Cybergasmics, and he is a self-proclaimed Elon Musk of sex tech. He is actually creating, it's called the Lovetron 9000. That would make the penis vibrate like a sex toy on demand. And it's going to be an implant that goes in and becomes a sex toy on demand. And he also said that he promises to turn himself into a cyborg to test this. He has already implanted himself with several experimental devices already. And he had that interview in 2017 with New Atlas. So he's been experimenting on his own implants and expects to do this one for himself too. So I did have two stories.
What's the question? Are bigger penises good? Is that
and actually the study said that they're actually concerned about reproduction because some women may not be able to take the change in size, which may then decrease reproduction. So they're also looking of ways to streamline sperm movement and making it a little bit easier. So the question is, Brendan, is I hope, did this story measure up to your expectations?
Does it measure up to my expectations? Well, now I want to read the whole thing.
The link will be included in the notes.
Yeah, me personally, I don't want to play around with
pun, Jamie.
But
did you get my pun, Brendan?
What's that? Yeah.
Did it measure up?
I got the pun. I did. Okay. I did. I had my notebook here.
She thinks they're hilarious for sure.
I don't have a ruler handy, so I'm not gonna.
That's probably a good thing. That's probably a good thing.
Should I stand up to make sure that I am wearing pants?
Oh God, please.
No. I have to get way back. I am wearing pants. There we go.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
That almost took a turn.
You never know when you're on one of these calls.
I did have one other story that's quick. We don't even have to go into it. It is about a Texas State University student back in 2015. Monroe received a DUI, and her father was so upset with her that he obviously took the car away. He then put a bike on top of his Jeep and drove to the campus and said, "You're not driving anymore. So here's the bike. This is what you're using." And she is a self-proclaimed diva. She doesn't like to sweat, doesn't like to work out, doesn't like anything like that. So she bought herself a battery-operated Jeep that she then drove around the university to wherever she needed to go.
Like a toy Jeep?
Yeah, it was a
You're
pink
talking like
Barbie
a
Jeep.
golf cart type of
No,
thing?
it was a pink Barbie
No,
Jeep.
like the little
Kid-
12-year-old,
a
like for
kid's-
the 8-year-olds.
Yeah,
Like the little
kid-
ones the kids drive
like
around
a
in their
4-year-old.
driveway.
Like a 4-year-old, yes, exactly. And her friend got one in solidarity, so they drove around campus.
So now do you have,
in their battery operated Jeeps?
8 years later, this is a grown adult. Did you look up what she's doing now? Or
I haven't. I have to do that because I saw her YouTube video and it was just pretty bad. But yeah, I'll have to look her up now.
No.
But that's all I got.
All right, Brendan, any closing thoughts?
Any closing thoughts? Well, thank you for having me on. I'm honored to be your first guest.
Thank
It
you
is
for coming
important
on.
that you stay on even after you go backstage until it uploads. So we'll let you know when you can leave us for sure.
That's fine. No, but thanks. Enjoy the conversation. Jamie, as always, I enjoy banter with you.
That's a lot of fun.
I'm glad we didn't get into any Key West stories because instead of reasonable arguments, it would have to be irresponsible behavior.
It was a lot of, we had a lot of fun.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that.
Imagine if it was 30 years later.
That's right, because you keep going down for the contest. Yeah, the Hemingway.
Yeah.
All right.
I do join the Hemingway lookalike contest. So that's on year number, I think, 3.
All right. Well, I'm taking us out, boys. Thank you so
take
much.
us out, Jennifer. Thanks,
All right.
Brendan.
This has been Reasonable Arguments News and Nonsense. There is so much BS on the mainstream media news. But you knew that, and that's why you're here. We tackle everything with complete honesty, and we always end on a lighthearted note to leave you smiling. Why do it if it ain't fun? We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media. Find Jamie at RepJam and Jennifer at Jennifer_SRQ. See you next time as husband and wife duo Jamie and Jennifer keep it real on Reasonable Arguments News and Nonsense.